Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is kind of more of a laid-back video, and I kind of want to do some numbers with you because I've been kind of thinking about this since a post of mine blew up on Twitter over the weekend. And I'll kind of pull it up here because it was more of just me kind of venting about my frustrations of a particular format. And yeah, let me pull it up here real quick. Oh, goodness. So let's go to picture-in-picture here. Yeah, so I said, I'm baffled by the argument. If it's too expensive, get over it, grow up. And I said, what? No, this is a literal card game made out of cardboard. You want me to pay hundreds to play a single card for just to play a game. Stop justifying your insane luxury spending as normal. Stop. So that particular comment first, I did follow this up with just to clear things up. Of course, the market predicts, and demands the price. But I think there's something to be said about the formats and kind of how the inflation has happened, especially over the last couple of years, especially the last 6 months almost. I think MTG Goldfish even made a video about how, Modern has just increased in price exponentially, especially because of the, the poor Masters products we've gotten in the past year. Like Masters 17 was great, and then you got Eternal Masters 25, and then, just all that kind of stuff. Tree of Redemption, if you remember. And I kind of talked about that, but then I kind of brought up later, that pricing players out of a format is a bad thing. And when I complain about pricing and saying it's too high, I'm saying the market is making the format die by actively shrinking player growth. And I feel like that's very real. And it's something that I feel like I can kind of see right now happening with people going, well, I want to get into Modern and I really want to get into maybe even Legacy, but it's just I can only play on Magic Online, and playing there is great. That's one of the best ways I play as far as Pauper and Legacy, things like that, or Modern especially, because I just don't want to invest, $1,200 or $1,500 into a, paper product like that. I'm not saying that you don't have to. You're definitely, it's your dollar. Do whatever you want with it. I just think that it makes it much more difficult as more players get on the bandwagon into MTG from standard, playing maybe draft and then going to brawl and then going to standard. That leap in price is it's like 3 to 3.5 times more than just playing in standard itself. Kind of being stuck in the hamster wheel that is standard. And so I was kind of thinking about this and talking kind of with Saffron Olive about it, and Pleasant Kenobi on Twitter. If you follow me, I vent a lot on Twitter and talk about fun stuff. Let's go to this little layout I have here, where I kind of broke down some information, and let's make it big enough on the screen there. There we go. So there are 8 sets in Modern, in Standard Max, and then I kind of I went to MTG Goldfish here. And I pulled all this stuff. Let's move this over a little bit. Get everything lined up. Again, this is just kind of a casual talking video, so I just wanted to kind of, pick your guys' brains on it. But looked at the standard decks here, and every top deck in the standard top 14 all combined is about $3,200. So if you want to build all of these decks, and that includes all the copies of the same card, that kind of thing, it's going to cost you $3,200. When the average is if you average it down, each deck, it's about $230 to build a deck in standard, which isn't honestly too bad. That's it's on the I'm getting into from draft and I want to build a standard deck. That's fine. There's some decks that are $500, like the Turbo Fog deck, and then there's some decks that are $130, like Blue White Gift. So it's very wildly, ranges very wildly. And there's definitely good budget decks out there to be had. Obviously, you just scroll down, and Saffron Olive and myself and all these people have good budget decks for $50 and $100 and $80, all that kind of stuff. Those are things that definitely exist in the format, and I'm not kind of discounting those things. But at the same time, to play at the top tier of the format for the time, the average is coming to about $230 per deck. Now we look at the Modern prices here, and Modern is way different. Let me move my face a little bit, or make it smaller. There we go. Modern is way different. So if you average, or if you combine all of the top decks here together, it's coming to about 12 grand. So that's 4 times the amount of a standard deck as far as the combined rate. And then the average is about 780, 790, about $800 for the average as far as how much you're going to spend for a modern deck, as far as a top tier performing modern deck. And again, there are tons of budget decks as well that can be $100, $50, $80, whatever. But there's definitely this huge difference in a budget deck and a deck that's going to perform well at a competitive level and a deck that's going to perform well at like an F&M, that kind of thing. And then you look at Legacy, and this is kind of what it is as well. You look at Legacy here, and Legacy is just ridiculous. It's like a combined for the top 15 here, it's like 50 grand, and then like the average is around like 3,800 as far as how much you're going to spend for a Legacy deck. And again, I kind of like broke it down on the side here where they grew from standard to modern, it grew about 250%. And then from modern to legacy, it grew like another 400 or 380%. Now, I'm probably wrong on those percentages. Let me know in the comments below. But all of these are the averages here on the actual numbers I did with the calculator and all that kind of fun stuff. And I kind of got to thinking, I was like, how many things or what can we do maybe to mitigate the step from standard to modern, which is a lot of people's kind of, I guess, step from being like, I'm a casual player into like, I am a committed player being in Magic the Gathering. Like I'm somebody who wants to be within the format or within like the community and get to know everybody and, kind of invest in my deck and that kind of stuff. I feel like the ceiling is a little too high right now with modern. And we had this kind of discussion with Frontier several years ago where we were talking about, Frontier is a great format. It's really interesting. But it kind of started at the wrong spot for some people. Frontier kind of started, I think, in Kanza Takir or like that course I read before that. That's fine, but at the same time, there's just not enough sets, I feel like, within that particular format. And it was just kind of there. And like the original origin of it was basically there for Haruya, I think in Japan, to just sell boxes and stock and stuff like that. And like that's fine for them. And it kind of turned into this weird like kind of gold rush moment for us, where people were buying Siege Rhino thinking they were going to be popular still. But I feel like overall it kind of floundered and just kind of calmed back down after a while. And from, like right now, I feel like Frontier is basically dead. People still talk about it, obviously, like they talk about Extended, but Extended ended 5 years ago as well. And the reason no one liked Extended, and I kind of talked about this when I was on the Twitch streams with some people in chat, and they were saying, the reason people didn't like Extended is because it rotated the same time Standard did, but instead of losing like hundreds of dollars in like your standard product for your particular deck, you would lose like maybe thousands or $500 or way more than you would lose with a standard rotation. And that's totally like reasonable to me. That makes total sense. I totally understand that. So I feel like a rotating format is probably something we don't want to do with this kind of thing. But it might be something that we want to look into as far as another kind of like modern 2.0 kind of thing. So make myself a little bigger over here. If you look here, I put middle format goes here. So there's 59 sets currently right now in modern. And that's modern was started in 2011. So that's 7 years ago, about a little over 7 years ago. And it started at 8th edition. And so 8th edition started in 2003 or came out in 2003. And that's 15 years ago. Now, when it was announced, that was 8 years ago. As far as whenever they announced modern, 8th edition was only 8 years behind that. So there was this like big gap. We had 8th edition forward. And all modern was really there to do was to, kind of get around the reserve list stuff and kind of give people more of an interest into playing a more extended format that wasn't extended, that didn't rotate, that kind of thing. The issue now is that the prices for modern have kind of gone up to the point where it's like, it's kind of mini Legacy as far as how much you're going to be paying for a deck. Obviously, you're not paying $3,000 or $4,000 for a deck, but it's to the point where I would say it's a high-end luxury kind of purchase now. Even if you're an enthusiast, there we go, enthusiast in the MTG community, you may want to go to your local game store at your F&M and play Draft. You may play Draft every single Friday for the past 3 to 5 years. You may play in Standard only for now, and then like you want to play into Commander, so Commander's there for you, or you want to play into Modern, but Modern is kind of like it's just a step above. I feel like for other than Commander. And then going from modern to legacy is even more. And obviously, I'm sure people in the comments below will give their experiences on that. But I thought maybe a middle format starting 8 years from now, which is starting at Magic, which is M11. So the course at 2011 moving forward, that's 8 years ago now. So that's basically the same amount of time that modern was announced. And that starts at, let's see here, that's M11, and it goes from Zendikar on, which kind of throws out a bunch of the stuff like Mirrodin, Darksteel, Fifth Dawn, all those kind of things that I feel like make Modern what it is, but at the same time make Modern the reason it can kind of be so expensive. Cards that came out 15 years ago that are still being played today. Obviously, things like Modern Masters and all those kind of things kind of support and try to support that entire like ecosystem. That makes total sense to me. But at the same time, it's like they're never going to reprint enough reprints for anyone to be happy. Like the prices are always going to go up. Like Mox Opal is, ridiculous right now. And I think it was reprinted, in the original Masters. Just one of those cards. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, Modern Masters 2015. And it was a Kaladesh invention. And it was printed, obviously, in the original Scars of Mirrodin. But the paper price is $100. So it was reprinted 3 different times. Once as a masterpiece. Once in a reprint Modern format, or Masters format. And it's still $100. So if you want a full playset, which is in several of the decks that run Mox Opal, which is basically all of them, Affinity, right now the Ironworks deck, the combo deck, you're looking at $400 for just 4 cards. I feel like that's a little unreasonable to me. The kind of like, I guess something similar in Standard is probably, Teferi, which Teferi right now is what, $40? Let's see. Let's look up here. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria is $42. Move myself over here. $42 in paper and $37 online. So to get 4 of him, that's $160. So still way less than Modern. And something I feel like there's just this huge gap in price as far as from jumping from Standard to Modern. And I feel like a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. Let's go back to the only cam here. I feel like a lot of people they want to talk about how Modern is so much better than Standard. And I totally get it. Like, it's a really fun format. It's really diverse. There's lots of different deck archetypes. There's lots of ways to have fun in Modern. It's kind of super open because anything can counter anything. But at the same time, the level of entry is so much higher than Standard that it makes the transition really difficult. And it kind of creates this this elitist barrier from people who play Modern to people who play Standard, making a lot of people, instead of going from Standard to Modern, they kind of divert and go into Commander instead. Not saying Commander's a bad format, but they may go to Commander because they just can't afford Modern, and Commander's more of a casual format anyway, so they're just going to play it like that. But I do want to know your guys' thoughts. I think a middle format is definitely should be in the works or something like that soon for WotC. I think just saying, there needs to be a middle format. I think starting at M11 8 years ago from now is pretty good. Starting at M11, then going from original Zendikar forward. I think that's awesome, honestly, because you still have stuff like Death Shadow and stuff like that, but you don't have stuff like Affinity. You still have Mox Opal and that kind of stuff as well too. So I think obviously cards that are in Modern, that are used in Modern, their prices are still going to be about the same thanks to them being used in Modern. That is something that definitely needs to be looked into as well. But I think making a format that is smaller, that has still kind of a set point moving forward, not rotating, I think rotating is probably still a bad idea, like extended. But I think just kind of closing that gap a little bit. So players who are new to the format, I got into Magic seriously around 2008, 2009. So around when M11 was out. And from there on, there's still cards that I see sometimes in Modern. And I'm I've never even seen that card before, that kind of stuff. So it's I've been around a long time and I've still never even seen some of these cards. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying it as there's just kind of a level of acceptability as you can't know every single card. And I feel like the people who play Modern seriously, people who play Legacy seriously, they have to just know everything. And I don't think that you should put that onto players trying to transition into a more advanced tier of Magic the Gathering. Now, some people will definitely kind of counterpoint that, saying as well, they just need to stay in Standard then and stay on that hamster wheel. And I don't think that's fair to a player that wants to kind of, experience new formats, experience, new fun experiences within Magic the Gathering. I think that's something that definitely you want to enjoy yourself with Magic the Gathering, and kind of staying stuck in Standard can sometimes be awful, especially, look at the last year we had so many bannings from Kaladesh and Hate the Revolt block. Some bannings in the Amonkhet and Hour Devastation sets as well. and then just like Hazoret, mono red aggro Hazoret, like that kind of stuff is just like, it's very bad for a format because it makes people leave. But instead of leaving to another format, they can't. They just leave. You know, like I feel like we don't have another format for them to go to. We have draft. You know, they can go, well, maybe I'll build pauper decks. But anytime a content creator makes a pauper deck video, the prices go like straight through the roof because obviously there's not enough stock to really support that format. Like no one really kind of talks about that, but I feel like the pauper format, there are some cards, especially on Magic Online, there are some cards like in Mercadian Mask that just weren't printed in stock enough on Magic Online. And so people try to look for them and then they just can't find them, or they're like $8 to $10 to $15. So it's just very strange to me. You can't really push a format like that if there's no inventory or stock for it. And I feel like a lot of local game stores would have a heck of a time trying to facilitate a pauper format. I don't know if that's a format that would necessarily be something that could replace Modern, obviously. I think it's a fun format, obviously, and I think it's growing for sure. I think that's awesome. But it's definitely something that I've never really seen successful personally, other than just people talking about it and it kind of firing at some, Channel Fireball events. So I don't know. I don't think Pauper's the natural transition into Standard, because Pauper is basically like a mini Vintage or mini Legacy, like a Legacy Light. And there's so many cards in that format that people just don't know, And transitioning from Standard to Modern is just, I feel like, too much to ask of a player that is tired of the grind of Standard. And going back to Draft, everyone does Draft. Draft is kind of a synonymous thing within Magic the Gathering. It's just something that you do every 3 months. When the new set comes out, you draft until you're tired of Draft. And then you get into your format you're comfortable with, which is Standard, Modern, or Legacy, or Vintage, or Pauper, or Commander. And, I think that right now, people who are playing Standard probably just go naturally to Commander, or now to Brawl, as it is growing. But I think that there needs to be something in between that Standard and Modern, right there in the middle. Just something that's sweet spot, where it's like maybe 36 sets, like starting an M11 moving forward. I think that's probably a good starting point. But definitely let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. Do you think we need a middle format, or do you think that people just should suck it up and just get into Modern because you're not really buying a lot of cards over and over again? Like you're buying like if you want to build Merfolk in Modern, you're just building Merfolk and you're done. You're not really building a deck and then building another deck. But to me, that's, as a brewer, that's kind of like coming at it the way of like, I'm investing in this format, but I'm not gonna like experiment in this format, and that's kind of sad to me. Other than me playing on Magic Online. But definitely let me know your comments down below. This is just kind of a rant video. Friday videos are kind of rant videos. Hope you guys like them for sure. But let me know your thoughts. Like it if you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do deck techs every Tuesday and Wednesday. We have Kenji videos on Friday and MTGO Finance on Monday. Trying to get new stuff coming on the channel soon. I'll be doing some double posting on certain days in the future, so look out for that. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more awesome MTG content just like this. And make sure to tap the bell icon to be notified whenever a video is made live. If you want to keep watching content, here are 2 more videos for you. This video and many others are sponsored by MTGO Traders and Cape Fear Games. Buy and sell digital singles to build your online collection today with MTGO Traders, and get your paper singles, accessories, and much more from Cape Fear Games. Whatever your Magic needs, both places have you covered.